If you have followed the Wuhan epidemic recently, I believe you must have seen the word Xiaotangshan quite often, such as January 24th, 2020, eve of Chinese Spring Festival. Wuhan decided to replicate Xiaotangshan model and to start the Huoshenshan and Huoshenshan project. Literally means Mount God of Fire and Mount God of Thunder. January 27th, Zhengzhou, capital of Henan province, started to reform the old yard of No. 1 People's Hospital into the Henan version of Xiaotangshan Hospital. So, what is Xiaotangshan Hospital exactly? Actually, Xiaotangshan was the most important anchor in the 2003 SARS outbreak. The growth rate of cumulative SARS cases was just pulled down by the Xiaotangshan Hospital. This hospital not only stabilized the epidemic by admitting 680 SARS patients, but also created a miracle that none of the 1,383 medical staff infected. In the history of hospital construction, Xiaotangshan was also a miracle. It built within 7 days and supported the defeat of SARS in 51 days. On the surface, it was just a few rows of board houses, but inside it had met the standard of a first-class infectious disease hospital. All the hardware qualities a hospital needs: oxygen station, incinerator, septic tank, morgue, disinfection system, everything needed was built in. Yet its efficiency and safety were much higher than the general hospitals, because it was created to protect doctors and save patients. Now the construction of Huoshenshan and Huoshenshan is in full swing. Let's go back to 2003 to see how this word miracle was built. Time back to March 1st, 2003. A SARS patient visited Beijing. SARS virus entered Beijing by then. April 20th. SARS cases in Beijing increased to 362. Evening, April 22nd. Beijing government held joint meeting, decided to implicate Chinese-style centralized treatment by the General Logistic Department of the PLA. At that time, the Minister of Health of this department, Bai Shuzhong, visited Xiaotangshan town in person. He found this place was far enough from the city center, convenient for transport, while open area all around. Neither wind direction nor water source will affect the main city. So the Republic government requestioned a piece of land behind Xiaotangshan town. Late on the 22nd, they convened a design team led by Huang Xiqiu. They worked all night until the early morning in the 23rd and came up with 5 master plan designs in one night. At the same time, Beijing Construction Commission consulted several listed companies. But these companies dare not take this task, or proposed a bunch of conditions. Finally, the task was taken by 6 state-owned construction companies in Beijing. They had worked in Beijing for many years. Behind them were their families and friends in Beijing. To protect their home, they went there with about 500 drives of machinery. By then, there was basically a wilderness with no road, no water, and no electricity of Xiaotangshan. But the entire project team issues a military order. Xiaotangshan Hospital will start operation at 10 p.m. on April 30th. Here, please remember the names of these 6 companies: BUCC, BURC, BMG, BCEGC, BUCG, First Burial, CSCEC, First Burial. 2 p.m., April 23rd. Site leveling work began. Wiring work must be completed by 6 p.m. By that time, Xiaotangshan had become an empty town. No extra help can be found. So Beijing Urban Construction Company stopped in other construction sites and requestioned their generators and cables. Resolved Xiaotangshan's power supply problem before 6 o'clock. 6 p.m. On-site leveling work and wiring work were all completed. Boardroom materials arrived at the scene, but there was no parking place, so trucks had to stop by the road. Dozens of tons of sand, cement, stone, wallboard, and other materials, almost all were transported to the construction site by manpower. 9 a.m. on the 24th, 3,000 square meters of basic work completed. 9 p.m. on the 24th, all box rooms were hoisted in place. Renovation inside and outside the room started. Morning on the 26th, water and sewage pipes were laid, water supply completed. 6 p.m. on the 29th, all civil construction and iron corridor installation tasks in Xiaotangshan were almost completed. 9 p.m. on the same day, Zhang Yanling, the to-be dean of the Xiaotangshan hospital, visited around the construction site. He found out there were still many problems in this hospital. The walls were not airtight enough and some doors and windows were not installed. Many beds were not in place. In some places, equipment could not be installed. Even water and electricity were not available. So, the military and the construction units checked and repaired problems one by one. It's finally noon on the 30th. Equipment engineers successfully installed 245 medical devices. Communication engineers completed signal coverage and optimization. 6 p.m. on April 30th, Xiaotangshan Hospital officially cordoned off. All construction workers left the site. The hospital were handed over to the military. Zhang Yanling, who officially took over as a dean, stationed in Xiaotangshan with more than 1,020 military doctors. 11 p.m. that night, a large number of ambulances from different hospitals around Beijing began to bring in SARS patients to be admitted. Wards with air conditioning, TV, telephone, shower, oxygen system, and ventilator were waiting for them. Battle of hardware building in Xiaotangshan ended. The real war had begun. In the 7 days of building Xiaotangshan, no worker had washed his face or changed his clothes. The hammer-holding hands, the thigh root, were all worn, soaked in their own sweat. Many people in this Xiaotangshan engineering battle were people in their 40s. None of them say they have family problems to go back. None of them said his body could not stand it. At the evening of April 28th, there was a worker named Zhao Zhigang. Holding a quilt, he said that he needed to find a place to sleep, but accidentally he fell into a ditch, and then he fell asleep in it. The next day, he was almost buried alive by a bulldozer. At the highest peak of construction, more than 7,000 people squeezed in this 40.3 hectare space. Workers can only eat on grass. They worked 60 hours a day, 8 hours off. Some of them nearly fell asleep during their standing. At the beginning of the construction, they could only spread a newspaper and sleep on it. Completing the construction of Xiaotangshan in 7 days is a miracle that only China can accomplish. More precisely, it was a miracle that only Chinese workers can accomplish. Only in China can you find so many skilled workers in quite a short time, scheduling such a huge resource without preparation to construct the world's largest infectious disease hospital. I really want to say, long live Chinese workers. Strictly speaking, Xiaotangshan was not a real hospital. Essentially, Xiaotangshan was a temporary field hospital. It was a press relief valve for Beijing epidemic. In fact, many hospitals in Beijing did not trust Xiaotangshan at first. Only a few patients with minor symptoms were transferred in at the beginning. The transfer scale became larger nearly at the end. Many patients didn't believe in Xiaotangshan as well. No one believed that a 7 days constructed building could be a regular hospital, and wondered why the patients were taken out to the wilderness. What the hell is it doing? This was also the case in reality. 1,200 medical staffs came from medical units of different levels in different regions of the country. Doctors in the same department didn't know each other. At that time, a large number of medical personnel across the country had also been infected. Psychological study of medical personnel during SARS was also conducted afterwards. In this research, it was after the protective equipment got in place, the overall psychological pressure of medical personnel had declined significantly. At the same time, Xiaotangshan was also continuously designing while building. Many places were not perfect. Repairments were continuing after the completion of the construction. Air conditioners, for example, were continuously added in afterwards. As Huang Xiqiu, the designer of Xiaotangshan, put it, even the materials of each ward in Xiaotangshan Hospital might be different. The number of wards were also different. You had to use everything that can be found. Looking back now, it was a bit incredible. They can unexpectedly match and surprisingly useful. Although the conditions were so difficult, Xiaotangshan was still completed in 7 days, supported the defeat of SARS in 51 days, and made the super miracle of zero infection among the 1,200 medical personnel. Wuhan has now launched the Huoshenshan and Leishanshan project. Xiaotangshan's design was directly brought into adoption. Zhang Yanling, the dean of Xiaotangshan 17 years ago, has already went to Wuhan now. Experiences summarized and reflections from Xiaotangshan were all brought back to Wuhan. Now we have a lot more experiences to epidemics than before, and prepared a lot more ready than before. Please have confidence in this country. Do what you should do. Stay at home. Do not believe or spread rumors. Everything is subject to official information. Epidemics prevention is a people's war. There's no people's hero, only heroic people. Thanks everyone for watching. See you next time.